Hi, I'm Ralph DeAmicis. I'm one of the astrologers for the Planetary Calendar. This is one of our portraits, our astro portraits, and today I'm going to talk about Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. 3 movies together, and in the third movie they were in together, La La Land, Emma Stone won an Oscar. So it's been a great synergy. It's what they call in the movies good chemistry. And so we thought we should look at the charts and see where's that chemistry coming from. Well, it's interesting because both of them are born in with the sun in Scorpio, but not a big thing because 1/12 of the planet probably has their sun in Scorpio. The they're also born in 2 different years, 1980 and then 1988. One's born on a Wednesday, one's born on a Sunday. But the other parallels between the charts are very interesting. For instance, both of them have their Scorpio sun conjunct a major planet beyond Jupiter in a kind of tandem relationship that shapes their essential self. In Ryan Gosling's case, it's the sun and Uranus. Uranus is very close, it's 5 degrees away from the sun. This tends to make people who are very electrified and they're also very sensitive to things around them that other people don't see. Uranus is the first planet that we consider invisible. We can't see it with the naked eye most of the time. And so it relates to those things that we catch at a glimpse now and then, like the flashing of the aura, for instance. Emma Stone has Pluto conjunct the sun, the smallest of the planets, a powerhouse. It's within 2 degrees of her sun. It's at 12 degrees. Her sun's at 14 degrees Scorpio. It's a powerhouse, and you feel it in her. There's that hidden power in herself. Now, the sun by itself does not determine career paths. What does determine career paths? There's numerous points. One thing is, for instance, what's called the part of fortune. Part of fortune is a mathematical point, and it tells you kind of how you connect to the earth. Now, in Emma Stone's chart, it's in Libra, the sign of the arts. It's also conjunct her moon, the sign of her femininity. It's also conjunct her Venus, the other sign of her femininity. So her sense of her as a woman, and Libra, the sign rules by Venus. Venus is in rulership in Libra, the sign of beauty and harmony. And Emma has the part of fortune, the moon, Venus, Mercury, and Vesta, the asteroid about the ideal, all in Libra, all in the third house. Now, interestingly, Ryan also has his part of fortune in the third house, but his is in Taurus. Taurus is the other sign ruled by Venus. So they both have Venus ruled parts of fortune in the third house. And the third house has a lot to do with playfulness. And it has to do with twinning with other people, having good engaging skills. And it's an ideal thing for people in acting because you're always having to become other people and work with other actors and deal with their interaction. So they both have Venus ruled positions there. Now, this is a thing that's interesting. Why do they work so well together? One was born in the middle of the night, one was born at midday, and they have their concentrations there. And in Ryan, all of his planets are up in the sky overhead. With Emma, all of her planets pretty much are below the horizon, down at the foundation of the earth. Hers is a very deeply feminine chart, deep in the earth. His is all out there in the world. Now, interestingly, like Emma, Ryan also has multiple planets in Libra. In his case, it's Pluto, Venus. They both have Venus in rulership. Juno, the marriage asteroid. Saturn, very strong position, the exaltation position. And Jupiter conjunct the Saturn. So once again, a great love of the arts. And this is someone who became involved in the arts very, very young. Now, there's a big difference in terms of how they approach the world. Ryan has Pisces rising, and his first performances were all dance. They can go back to see him as a young child dancing on stage. And as he moved through his career, a lot of his work was related to dance, and Pisces rules the feet. And many people who are great dancers have Pisces significant in his chart. And to make it even more interesting, the Pisces rising is an exact trine, 120 degrees, or within 1 degree really, of his sun in the ninth house, a house that relates to athletic performance. And so it shows this drive of Scorpio supporting this rising, this great love of dance. And while we think of him as an actor, so much of his early work was related to dance. Now, Emma, she's a bit different. She has Leo rising. She's like right out there, right? And remember we mentioned about Ryan have Juno conjunct his Venus, Juno, the marriage asteroid, conjunct his Venus. Emma has Juno, the marriage asteroid, rising. The rising is 27 degrees. The Juno is 29 degrees. What's at 29 degrees? The royal star Regulus, the heart of the lion. And you see a lot of important performers who have major planets or positions at Regulus. It gives a luminosity to their personality. And you see it very much in her. You see her, she glows from within. The Juno is there as the rising planet. The next planet behind there is the moon in Libra, and then the Venus. So all the first things you encounter about her are feminine, feminine, feminine. It's very, very, very evident in her personality. Now, this goes even further because her sun is in the fourth house, the most feminine of houses, the house of the home and the family and the mother. But she does have planets above the horizon. Who's up there? She has Jupiter in Gemini in the 11th house. Gemini relates back to that third house again. And she has Mars up in the ninth house. Now, this is real interesting because this is Mars in Aries. This is in a ruling position. It's in the house of athletic performance. And she, like Ryan, is a wonderful dancer. And her physical presence, one of the things that the Mars in Aries gives people is a great physical presence. They just feel very energized, and they tend to be very coordinated. In the ninth house, the house of athletic performance, it's really enhanced. And having the Jupiter overhead, once again, a planet of athletics performance, in Gemini, it tends to make her appear very youthful, which is, a nice quality. But this big polarity between them, Ryan having all these planets overhead, and he has no major planets below the horizon. And then Emma having major planets below the horizon and then two major planets above the horizon. It's like they live their life in one hemisphere, but they dip their toes in the other. And Ryan has bodies in the lower hemisphere, the hemisphere of the self, but they're interesting. It's Pallas Athena. He has this great, in the second house, it shows he's developed very good skills early on. He has natural talents early on, personality talents early on. He has Chiron in the third house. There are things, and then Hygeia in the fourth house. There are things in his early childhood that sensitized him to other people's suffering. It's not uncommon with Pisces rising, and he's got this great sensitivity to other people. I remember seeing an interview with him and Emma Stone, and Emma saying, these two have so much common in their chart between all the Scorpio and all this Libra in their charts. And her saying, he knows me better than I know myself. In some ways, they're almost like siblings. There's so much overlap in their chart. They both have this great love of the arts. They're both very visually appealing people, which is something that Libra gives. If you look in movie sets, there's a lot of Librans running around because they're just very nice to look at. They're very balanced. There's a great love of the aesthetics, of the importance of working in cooperation with others. So they're very good at working with other people. And when they find someone else who has that same ethic, it becomes really easy. But those two hemispheres, that's what's so interesting. Because with the two hemispheres, they fill in each other's gaps. And you see this many times in great partnerships, that the people fill in the two different hemispheres One likes being more at the social world. One likes being more in the personal world. One has more resources. One but likes reaching into the other. So you're both liking to reach where the other person lives, which is part of a good partnership. You want to be engaged with them. Now, it's interesting with Ryan, a little interesting point. He has his moon in Capricorn, right? And she has her moon in Libra, which seems like there's not a natural connection there because they're both cardinal signs, and actually their two moons are generally square to each other, which means emotionally they come to things differently. She emotionally really needs to balance things very gradually, and the moon's because it's a nighttime chart, the moon in her chart is very strong. In some ways, she's more Libran than she is Scorpio. Where he very much is Scorpio, with the sun above the horizon, and the moon in Capricorn is actually a very introverted moon. What's interesting is that Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, is exalted in Libra. It means it's its best friend. It means it's the place where it gets treated the best. And Ryan has Saturn in Libra. And in fact, the Saturn in Libra, the Venus in Libra are the two strongest or most extrovert planets in his chart. What's interesting for Emma is that the Mars in Aries and the Venus in Libra are her two strongest chart rulers, you would call them. Ryan, because he has the Saturn in there, is more concerned with the bigger stuff. But with Emma, she likes the engagement, the Mars Venus. She likes the boy-girl engagement. She likes the people engagement. He's more aware of the overall structure. In some ways, he'd make a wonderful director. Like wonderful director with that strong Scorpio sense, that ability to work in partnership with other people, the emotional control that the moon in Capricorn gives him, the Pisces rising, the ability to visualize. He'd make a really wonderful director, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see him over time move into that role. He has such a great sense of space that comes from so many years of dance. With Emma, with the Leo rising loves being on the stage. They love the visibility of it. Even if they don't naturally seek it, when they get there, they go, ooh, this is nice. Where the Pisces rising, they're actually okay behind the scenes. But with Pisces Ryan's, the thing that happened with him was that he was so talented at it. His palace in the second house, the sun elevated conjunct the Uranus. Uranus conjunct the sun makes the person stand out. With Emma, it was just so evident that this was a very pretty girl, a beautiful woman, but then there was that driving sun conjunct Pluto in Scorpio, and the drive that came from her core family. With Ryan, it was that he was drawn into, the dance troupes and things like that. With Emma, it comes deeply from her family, and these are two polarities. This is why these two work together so well. They also, interestingly, both have Marses in their fire signs. You see it in their physicality. They're both right there. She's a little more driven because it's Mars and Aries. He's a little more, moving around her. And what's interesting is that his chart is very much designed that he always supports his partner. And of course, when Emma won the Academy Award, the first person she thanked was him for this wonderful support, the way in which he lifted her up in the role. And when that palace in the second house, that great natural talent he has, she said of him, he could learn anything. Well, he's a ninth house native with Mercury in Scorpio in the ninth house. That's the only other thing in Scorpio, early in the sign. So it's a person who loves to learn and is very driven about it. And she said that for La La Land, watching him learn the piano was amazing. And when you watch that movie, you think, this person's played his piano his whole life. He does it so naturally. So interesting personalities, the way they fit together. And you can see that they just click. and they work in partnership really beautifully. So I hope you enjoyed the Astro Portrait. Come visit spaceandtime.com to see full episodes. Visit our YouTube channel to see our weekly forecasts. And then, of course, there's the monthly forecast. And you can go to spaceandtime.com or planetarycalendar.com and buy your calendar so you stay up with what's going on. Thanks for joining us.